Hello, I'm Michelle Peterson, and this is my Module 13, Tort Liability. I have defined tort liability as, tort is defined as an actionable or civil wrong committed against one person by another that is independent of contract. And I got that exact definition from our book for this class. And then also, therefore, a tort liability is when someone is being held liable for damages or harms suffered by another person. And typically, in a lot of the reading that I did and stuff, it led to lawsuits being charged. In this particular tort, the summary of it overall was a teacher forcefully removed a student from the classroom. The student was being very disruptive during a spelling test. He ended up getting up in the teacher's face, and the family was suing for the fact that the child had fallen over and fallen into a podium and then into the blackboard, and then the teacher grabbed him by his arm and pulled him out of the classroom. In my district, something that would be very reactive is the parents would immediately post what happened at school on Facebook. They are all about posting on our community page to get all of these military wives and families just on a roll, basically. So that's the first reactive thing that would happen. It's very negative, but that's what would happen in our school. The next reactive thing is the first thing our principal would do is reach out to the teacher for details about what had happened, and wanted to get their side before they reached out to others, such as the family. The principal would also, our principal would also ask the teacher not to speak of the occurrence to anyone, whether it be someone within the school or definitely someone outside of school, not to speak with the parents, things like that, until the attorneys and things have been contacted, because naturally there's going to be a lawsuit that came out of this. A proactive measure is to never put your hands on a student if at all necessary. It just will always lead to bad things. Whether it's a lawsuit or not, parents are going to get very upset about it. Imagine if it was your child and you heard a teacher put their hands on them, you would not be happy. So always put yourself in that parent's shoes before you do something, because how would you want that to happen to your kid? Also, it's really important, proactive, to always have another adult in the room. They are going to be able to side with you. They will serve as an extra witness. It will definitely help if a lawsuit or something bad happens. So when a child is escalated, it's really important to get a second adult in the classroom as a witness. Something for professional ethics for this one, teachers need proper training, just to know that it's not okay to put your hands on students, that you can't do these things by yourself. There's people who are usually within a school who are trained for this kind of situation, so they are the ones that need to be put into this, not you as the classroom teacher if you aren't trained. So most importantly, it's just that an educational leader needs to make sure that the proper training is happening. And this next tort, the summary of it overall was that some boys are acting up in a gym class, and the teacher after a conversation, the teacher sent them to the locker room to shower and freshen up after the class. But he typically is in the locker room, but he actually stayed back out, and he was having a 4 to 5 minute conversation with another student about an issue. So what happened was the student was pushed into a locker, which caused multiple injuries, and the parents were suing the teacher for not being an authority figure in this setting and not making sure that all kids are safe, especially when the kids were already riled up in the class and he'd already had this conversation. A reactive would be our principal would have a lengthy discussion with the teacher right off the bat. It would definitely be going about what are the expectations of that teacher. It was an expectation for that teacher to be in that locker room, so the principal would be stating things like the teacher needs to be there, where he's supposed to be, conversations that can be had later when they're not supervising a large group of students. Also, we are reactive. Parents would be calling and bringing up issues from the past. Like I said, ours are very much about social media, very much about posting things all the time, trying to get reactions from others. So they would be calling up to the school. Parents that had nothing to do with this issue, when they hear about this lawsuit being formed, they would immediately be bringing up their issues from even if it was months ago. A proactive measure is to make sure that teachers are following the expectations of their teaching duty. If this is where you're supposed to be at this time, that's where that teacher needs to be, regardless of what else is going on, because overall it is the safety of the students that is the most important. Another proactive measure is to discuss the consequences of putting your hands on another student. Teachers need to know, they need to have this training, they need to be told these things. I know in our district we have a lot of transient teachers. We have a lot of young teachers coming fresh out of college. Also within the military, they're constantly coming and going. So they need to be aware of these policies, that what is accepted and when and how you should address these kinds of situations. Lastly, when it comes to professional ethics, teachers need to make a conscious effort ensuring the safety of all students. It's the most important. The school is meant to be safe, and if they're not making it safe for everyone, it's not going to be good for the teacher or the school itself. In this next particular tort, a freshman male, in summary, the freshman male sustained an injury during an activity. The doctor provided a written medical excuse for the student to not participate in football or lifting weights, because weightlifting was a part of being on the football. He was in a class as well with the coach, and the coach made him do a lift, even though there was a medical excuse that ended up altering the freshman's life forever. He had to have a lot of surgeries, and he ended up not caring about school. Grades dropped and could never play football or baseball again. So it really altered his life. A reactive would be that our principal would put the coach on leave immediately. They would, until the situation comes to light and the issues, and whether or not the decision be made that the teacher or coach or teacher lose their position, they would be put on leave just to ensure the safety of all students. Again, parents would have reached out to friends and the issue would have escalated. It's a common thing in our district and definitely our school. One proactive thing is that the school nurse needs to provide training on medical excuses or excuses. They need to let the teachers know this is what happens when these are the consequences if we don't follow it. These are the negative effects of this to the students if these notes are not being abided by. And then also something to think about is students, maybe a possibility a proactive thing so this doesn't happen again is students shouldn't be in a room that they cannot perform in. So if it's a weightlifting class, instead of that child just simply sitting there and wasting that hour of the day, maybe they could be sitting in a study hall or something where they could be doing homework or things instead of being in there where they can't do anything anyway. And then it all leads back again to professional ethics of proper training and understanding staff, that this coach in this case particularly, he said the lift wouldn't hurt the child's back, but it ended up causing life-altering things. So we need to, as an educational leader, we need to make sure that the staff we are hiring is not so sport-minded driven, that they're not thinking about the overall effects on the students. This next one, in summary here, was that this gentleman or teacher, his name was Richard Super, was being charged with endangering the welfare of a child. What had happened was it was a teenager, and the school had located inappropriate email interactions between the teacher and the teen, and the parents were the guardian. The teenage guardian was suing for wrongdoing of the teacher. A reactive issue to this would be that our principal put the teacher on leave again until we know what's going on, the full side of it, what charges are going to be pressed, etc. The district attorney would need to be contacted immediately. They need to be brought into sight of what happened at the school, because naturally we know that a lawsuit's being filed, so they need to be on the same page and informed. Again, parents would be at the school, and they would be wanting an immediate meeting with the administration and the teacher, which typically, if something like this were to happen to my child, I could see why they would feel that way for sure. A proactive measure to this is to make sure that educational leaders are monitoring who is hired. They need to be monitored thoroughly with background checks, and make sure that they are building relationships with these teachers, because if you are in the setting and you're monitoring your staff, and you might be able to pick up on things like this before the issue has escalated into a lawsuit. So the professional ethics of this is, in order to prevent something like this from happening again, we need to have an educational leader needs to be thoroughly monitoring the staff and the equipment, such as the computer that these emails were sent through. And the last one, this one here is, in summary, is a 7th grade boy's family is suing the school for negligence of the PE teacher when teaching the fundamentals of hockey. The boy ended up getting hit in the face when he was, or hit in the face with a hockey stick from another child, and ended up causing some issues. So a reactive measure to this would be to contact the district attorney right away. Again, keep them updated. It's the most important part. Also, we need to reach out to that family. We need to let them know that the issue is being looked into. We need to make sure that they are feeling aware that we are taking the proper steps to this lawsuit, without saying a lot of information, because that needs to be left up to the district attorney or lawyer. A proactive measure to this is to monitor teaching habits. The big thing here was that the parents were trying to say that the teacher were not fundamentally teaching the students how to play, and that's why their child got hit in the face. So make sure that as an educational leader, you're in and out of those classrooms to see the teaching habits of their teachers, and to maybe even look over their weekly lesson plans. How detailed are they? Are they prepared for this, or are they going off of the fly? That would be one way to keep this from happening again. And then lastly, for professional ethics, the staff training. Again, we have to keep going back to that. Our teachers are not informed if they are not being informed by the educational leader. Every district is different. The majority of the laws are the same, but the way protocols and things like that, they're all different. And with our district, we're so transient, it's important that they're coming in and out. And here's my reference pages. So thank you.